10 minutes before presenting the most important campaign of the quarter, Herman Sastre entered the room with a red marker, a folder under his arm, and the expression of a man bringing not coffee, but adverse weather. He positioned himself in front of the screen, where Martina Beltran's final line glowed. The unforgettable coffee maker for a better start to the day. Then he crossed out unforgettable with a thick, almost artistic stroke. After that, he crossed out perfect, exciting, unique, ultimate, irresistible, and 12 other words Martina had used with the confidence of someone who had spent years turning household products into small promises of a better life. Legal just received the client's final list, Herman said. No emotional adjectives, no superlatives, no vague promises, and one extra rule. Every banned word that appears or is spoken during the presentation subtracts 1 minute from your speaking time. Martina looked at the clock in Tramontana's meeting room. 10 minutes before Irene Valcarcel, marketing director at Nara Coffee, joined the video call. 10 minutes to save a campaign built precisely out of the words that had just died in red. Paula Rios from accounts raised one eyebrow. Leo Aranda, art director and Martina's professional rival for the past 3 pitches, pressed a black folder to his chest as if he had an answer and did not want to give it away too soon. Martina breathed in through her nose, her polite way of not biting anyone. We're not postponing, she said. I'll rewrite it. In 10 minutes, Herman clarified. 9.5 if you keep talking.
Herman was not offended. Legal was rarely offended. Legal filed things. Martina sat down at the laptop. She had written an opening about the small luxury of the morning, the intimate gesture of starting the day with a cup that understood your rhythm. Now, small luxury was suspicious. Intimate was debatable. Understood was a dangerous promise. And rhythm did not sell coffee makers, at least not without an engineering report. Leo placed 3 printouts on the table. They were not slogans. They were almost wordless images. In the first, a narrow counter and a hand filling a transparent tank up to a visible line. In the second, a finger pressing a large button, while in the background, someone searched for keys in a bowl. In the third, a piece of the coffee maker sliding straight out to be rinsed under the tap. No golden sunrises, no poetic steam. I have an alternative sequence, Leo said. 3 scenes. Small kitchen, rushed morning, quick cleaning. We show use, not promise. It looks like an instruction manual with natural light, Martina said. The manual has one virtue. It doesn't cost us minutes. The campaign can't sound like creative surrender. The campaign also can't sound like a fine. Paula made a calming gesture, though her eyes stayed on the clock. Account people used that look when they wanted to remind creatives that they could debate the soul of a spoon for hours, while the client decided in 4 minutes whether to buy the cutlery. Give me the images as support, Martina said. I'll keep the arc. What arc is left if legal has taken away your arrows? An arc without designer jokes. Leo smiled, not because he had won, but because there was still a match to play. Martina returned to the keyboard. In pitches, she was known for finding the sentence that arranged the room. She had sold insurance with the word tomorrow, mattresses with the word pause, and a gym chain without showing a single person sweating. But when the pressure rose, she was also known for closing the door, literally or figuratively, and emerging with a solution so polished that the rest of the team could barely find a place to put their fingers. Paula took the chair across from her. 30-second rehearsal. Martina turned the screen and began. Herman cleared his throat. Paula raised a finger. Also, Irene is coming off a previous overinflated campaign. They were promised emotional connection with the kitchen, and distributors ended up asking exactly how a coffee maker connected with an emotion. She needs clarity for stores, web, and the sales team. Martina placed the paper on the table. That changed the weight in the room. It was not just some whimsical legal list. It was a small but expensive commercial wound, a brand that had sounded too big for a product that needed to fit on a counter. "So we're not dodging adjectives," Martina said. "Exactly," Paula said. Leo let out a short laugh. Martina ignored him with imperfect professionalism. Where it said a smoother morning, she wrote, "Fill the tank," without moving the coffee maker. Where it said, "The pleasure of not waiting," she wrote, "Heats in 40 seconds, confirmed by product." Where it said, "Effortless cleaning," she wrote, "Removable piece, rinse under tap." Herman underlined, "Confirmed by product" in green, which in legal was almost a hug. They opened the user notes. "I don't want to think much before my first coffee. My kitchen is the size it is. If I have to take apart 5 pieces, I won't clean it. I like hearing that it's ready, not watching it." They were comments from adult people in real mornings, without endless marble counters or obedient sunrises. Leo placed his 3 printouts beside those notes. They matched with a precision that irritated Martina for half a second, and then interested her. The first image answered the small kitchen. The second, not wanting to think too much. The third, not dismantling half the machine. This was not an instruction manual with natural light. It was a structure. "We can open with 3 gestures," Leo said. "Fill, press, rinse." "And each gesture ties to a sales argument," Paula added. "Space, time, cleaning." Herman looked at the red list. None of them banned. What a strange feeling. Martina pulled the images closer. "Fine. We used them in the first half." "Support material holding up the roof," Leo said. "Don't get architectural 6 minutes before a call." In truth, there was less time than that. Beyond the glass, the agency continued its workday afternoon choreography. Someone was searching for a charger as if it were an organ for transplant. A printer spat out pages with mechanical resignation, and in the office kitchen, a pod coffee machine made a dry noise, not very aspirational and very timely. Martina heard it and smiled despite herself. Nara's product did not need to promise a different life. It had to solve those 2 square meters where life was already happening. She rewrote the opening. "This campaign does not ask people to feel something special for a coffee maker. It shows what the coffee maker does when the morning leaves no room to spare." Paula read over her shoulder and nodded. "I can sell that." "It has no adjectives," Herman said, almost disappointed. "It has an intention," Martina said. "Intention is still legal." The video call screen made the entry sound. Everyone looked at Paula.
4 minutes early, Leo said. Irene joins early when she has questions, Paula replied, and accepted the call before the call could start looking like a threat. Irene Valcarcel appeared wearing rectangular glasses, a sand-colored jacket, and the serenity of someone who had seen too many presentations to be hypnotized by a pretty typeface. Behind her were packaging samples and a plant far more organized than most marketing departments. "Good afternoon. I was able to join a little early. If this is inconvenient, I can wait." Martina looked at the script full of red marks, Leo's images, Herman's red list, and Paula's face, which said that it is never inconvenient for a client if the client is already inside. "This works well," Martina said. "In fact, it explains what you're about to see. In the final review, we removed words we couldn't defend with real use. We'd rather present a cleaner campaign than a more decorated one." Irene stayed still for a second.
Did you remove words because of legal or because of judgment? Hermann opened his mouth. Martina lifted one finger just slightly, without looking at him. It started with legal. It should have started with judgment. If we can't prove it, we won't say it. Paula lowered her eyes to hide the smallest smile. Leo stopped playing with the corner of a printout. That interests me, Irene said. My problem is not whether the campaign is beautiful. My problem is approving something distribution can then use without translation. Give me an example. A shopper with little space and little time. What do we tell her? Martina felt the old urge to answer with a rounded phrase. Something about mornings that fit in your kitchen, perhaps. It sounded good. It also sounded like 1 minute less. She looked at Leo. He already had the sequence open. This time, Martina did not say support. Leo, can you show the small kitchen sequence? Leo shared his screen. The narrow counter appeared, a toaster at the very edge of the available space, the transparent tank accessible from the front. Martina accompanied the image with simple verbs. It fills from the front. You don't have to move the machine. The tank mark is visible without turning it. Second image. A finger on a large button, a hand in the background catching a set of keys. You press it once. The machine heats and signals when it's ready. It doesn't ask you to watch it. Third image. The piece under the tap. The piece that gets dirtiest slides straight out. It rinses under the tap and clicks back into place. Irene did not smile immediately. That would have been too easy. She took notes. Then she said, I can take that to sales. What's the campaign line? The room seemed to shrink by 2 centimeters. The campaign line was Martina's territory. It was also the most heavily mined ground. Paula opened the presentation from her laptop, the version connected to the client link. Martina had rewritten almost everything, but the closing lived on the final slide, that room where creatives keep their favorite furniture until the end. The presentation moved forward. First gesture, first argument. Second gesture, second argument. Third gesture, third argument. Irene asked concrete questions. Paula answered about distribution. Hermann confirmed boundaries. Leo explained why the images left room for format adaptations. Martina led, connected, trimmed whenever something became too pretty. At moments, the campaign walked with a new confidence, less perfumed and stronger. And Martina liked it. She liked it in an uncomfortable way, because part of that strength was not hers, or not only hers. There was a difference between commanding an idea and directing it. Commanding was faster. Directing forced you to see whether others could also hold it when you were not in the room.
Irene interrupted after the next to last slide. I need a closing my general director can understand in one line. I don't want aspiration. I don't want brand personality floating in the air. Paula pressed the arrow key. The final slide appeared. Leo's clean image, a real narrow kitchen, afternoon light, the coffee maker taking up little space. And above it, in letters that seemed to grow only to embarrass the room, the unforgettable coffee maker for a better start to the day. Unforgettable, the reddest word of all. The silence was not long, but it had furniture. Hermann closed his eyes. Paula stopped breathing for one syllable. Leo looked at the screen and then at Martina, because the image was his, but the old line was hers. The rushed blend had done what rushed blends do, preserved exactly what should have been lost. Martina saw the easy exit. She could say the visual version had not been updated, that design had dragged in an old line.
It would be believable. Leo would become the owner of the defective file. She would keep control, though perhaps not the account. She also saw another exit, less brilliant and more costly. Admit that the line was still there because she, even after accepting Leo's structure, had wanted to keep one perfumed word for the final blow. Elaine looked into the camera. Martina took the mouse. Yes, and it shouldn't be there. She deleted the line live. For 1 second, the slide was almost empty. Kitchen, coffee maker, air. Half an hour earlier, that visual poverty would have terrified Martina. Now it looked like space to say something true. The mistake isn't Leo's, and it isn't the image, she continued. The visual structure is his, and it is exactly what has organized the campaign. Leo looked down, not out of modesty, but so his satisfaction would not look like a banner. Paula started breathing again. Herman placed the red marker on the table like someone disarming an alarm. Martina pointed to the coffee maker in the image. This is how I would close. It grinds, it heats, it signals. It lets you remove the piece that gets dirty and clean it under the tap. She wrote a new line on the slide, with no ornament and no apparent lift. Coffee ready before you leave the kitchen.
No one spoke. The line was not beautiful. It did not ask to be framed. It did not promise to transform anyone. But anyone could repeat it, beside a coffee maker, in a store, on a website, in a sales email, without feeling like they were acting. Irene read it quietly. Coffee ready before you leave the kitchen. She looked to one side, perhaps at someone from her team off camera. Then she came back. That's it. Build out this line. I want point-of-sale pieces, web, and short video. And I want Martina and Leo to lead the next round together. The room tried not to celebrate too soon and failed with great politeness. Paula pressed her lips together, but her eyes threw a small party. Herman wrote something in his notebook, probably approved or miracle without adjectives. Leo said, Perfect. Then he looked at the red list and corrected himself. I mean, viable. Irene smiled for the first time. I like viable better. When the call ended, Martina stayed there looking at the final slide. Coffee ready before you leave the kitchen. Dry, effective, almost insolent in its lack of perfume. Paula poked her head in from the doorway. Co-directors, management needs an email subject line. No adjectives. Martina and Leo looked at each other. He opened his mouth to suggest something bureaucratic. She was already typing. Nara, coffee ready. Leo read the subject line, nodded, and did not ask to change a single comma. And that was, perhaps, the first line of the campaign that did not need a single author.